Hi guys, and welcome back to the Motor Department. In this episode, I'm going to tell you all the things that I love about my 2023 Triumph Bonneville Speedmaster. Let's get right into it. The first thing that I noticed when test driving the bike back then was that when you sit down on the bike, you have a very unique seating position. So the first thing are the handlebars. You see the handlebars are curved, they are called beach bars, so your hands are angled in an unusual way when you sit on the bike for the first time. But I guarantee you, when you drive the bike for maybe only half an hour, you totally get used to the resting positions of your hands. Because you don't have to straighten up your hands when you have a straight handlebar, you can just rest them in their natural position. The only downside to this beach bar is that your arms are quite close to your body. So when you try to maneuver the bike in a parking spot maybe, or a parking lot, you hit your body with your arms, and so it can get a little bit tricky and difficult, but you definitely get used to it. Also, the seat is very soft and very big, so even big bums like mine can fit there perfectly. And even on long rides, when you drive for hours on hours, I drove once 9 hours on the German Autobahn, you really are comfortable and you have no problems with your ass hurting. Another point for highway driving or long distance driving is that this bike comes standard with a cruise control. This is very easy to activate. You only have to push one button twice and then the bike keeps your speed. And either you brake, you tilt your gas handle forward, or you tap the cruise control button again, and then the cruise control gets cancelled. It's very easy to use because on other bikes that I test drove, for example the BMWs, you have like buttons like in the car. You have plus, minus, set, reset, so you have like a whole control panel. And for me, I don't want to fuss around with buttons and have to look down at my hands when I drive the bike. I want to focus on the road fully, and this totally gets the deal done. Another thing that I realized while driving the bike is the handling. So because of the beach bars and because it's a little bit more cruiser-like the T120s, for example, you don't have this sharp steering which you have with more sportier bikes, but you have also not the fully cruising bike like the BMW R18 or the Harley Davidsons, for example. And this is all up to the rake of the front wheel. It's standing out more than the T120, for example, or sportier bikes, but not so far like the BMW R18 or the Harley Davidsons that I mentioned. And this is very important, how the bike falls into a corner. And this bike is the perfect mix for me personally, because you can drive sporty if you want, or you can cruise and relax, and the bike is not so snappy and always wants to lay in the corners, and it can drive long roads very relaxed and without hesitations. Of course, the thing that I cannot forget to mention is the looks, because if you just look at the bike, it's so retro, and even people come up to me, mostly older guys, who are like, "Oh, what year is this? I drove a Triumph Bonneville back in the day in the 80s or in the 70s. I had one myself." And I'm like, no, this is a brand new bike, and they really cannot believe their eyes, because Triumph really did a great job, in my opinion, with designing the bike like it's still air-cooled, like it still has a carburetor. And in my opinion, it's alright, because the bike really looks timeless. And I know that in decades from now, this bike will still look as beautiful as today. And you don't have the problem of sportier bikes, for example, or naked bikes, that when you see them, bikes that are now like 10 or 20 years old from now, you really see from which era the bikes are, and that they are older bikes. But with this one, it's completely timeless. But the thing that I directly fell in love when starting the bike is the sound. This 1200cc engine with 2 exhaust pipes, one on each side, really has a nice grumble and rumble to it. If you rev the bike up, it really starts to scream. But really, with the power delivery the bike has, you don't really have to rev the bike up that high. And even down low in the RPM ranges, you really have a nice grunt and a nice burble to it. And also, when you get off the gas and you drive a little bit downhill and you don't brake, you get nice pops and bangs out of the exhaust, which are quite reasonable, not too loud, not too flashy, but it's quite fun. And I really could not believe my ears when I test drove this bike, because Here in Europe we have Euro 5, strong regulations with the exhausts, and every other bike that I've drove is like completely quiet, no rumbles, no burbles, even Harley Davidson with the standard exhaust, it's like not that great. But this bike has a very nice stock exhaust that you can live with without upgrading it. Another thing for me is the capabilities or the transformation that you can do with this bike. So right now I have the bike in a more like sleek mode with like still a pillion rest and the back here. I can show you some pictures where I have the back totally cleaned up, so it's more like a bobber style bike only with the driver's seat. But I also can build the bike up to a full adventure bike where I do a lot of trips, go camping with a tent or with a hang mat. And this is really awesome because I have a bike where I can drive through the forest, through the woods when I have nice weather and have fun and drive a little bit sporty. But I also have like an adventure and tourer bike when I want to go on weeks on end on trips, build a lot of luggage up in the back. And for me, this is the perfect bike because it's the best of both worlds. And this was also the reason why the Triumph Bobber, which I actually drove before this one, was not made for me, because it looks amazing. Let's be honest here, with the floating seat and everything. But I can't take my wife, I can't take any luggage. And so it's so unpractical that I believe when you want to do a bit of traveling with your motorbike, you have to have an extra bike for it. And then you only have the Bobber for Sunday cruises out with the boys, you know. But you cannot take any friends or your wife or a girlfriend. And this is what I love about the Triumph, because it has the same engine. It's basically the same bike. The only difference is that you can build up the rear. And for me, this was something that I really had to get in a bike. Another point, what was important for me the moment I purchased this bike, was the safety features that this bike comes with. Because it's LED lights all around, so you can be seen better and you can see better. Because the bike I had before was my first bike. It was a Yamaha Virago 535, and it has no ABS, no traction control, only halogen lights. And it's a raw bike from the 90s, and it was quite fun. It was also air-cooled and had a carburetor and everything. But for me, there was a point to say, okay, if I get this bike, it has traction control, ABS, LED lights in the front and the back, also the cruise control that I mentioned. And so I have a bike which has everything that is nice to have and that I need, but most importantly, not too much. I like that this bike does not have like a TFT touchscreen display, which some bikes have, even Triumph bikes. I like that it's still analog and still true to its core, but the little features that it has are really helping me out on a day-to-day basis. I also upgraded the grips to the heated grips from Triumph, and these are really amazing. I have 3 different modes: off, low and high. And low is quite enough for me, to be honest. And it really warms your hands up nicely. And if you drive in the autumn or in the winter, which I do quite a lot, when you have like 10 degrees Celsius outside, it's really nice to have something to keep your hands warm. Also, the build quality is quite amazing in my opinion, because this is purely made out of metal. So the downside, of course, is that this bike is quite heavy, but it's a cruiser, so it really is not a downfall, and it really drives smoothly down the road because of the heft of the weight. Even the front fender here is made out of metal. The lights, okay, I think this is made out of plastic. But the mirrors, everything you see and touch is basically made out of metal. Just some very small parts are made out of plastic, but these are really no big deal. A small point that I realized when I owned this bike, that this bike is quite rare, especially here in Germany. I've only seen this bike twice on the road. You see the Triumph Bobber a lot, but not the Speedmaster, because I think most people go for the Bobber or the T120, but this is quite a rare bike. So you really don't see them often on the road, and it's quite unique. And when you see one with a Speedmaster, of course you wave and it's amazing. But yeah, I think this is something I personally like, to have something that not everybody is driving. For example, most people are driving BMW GSs, especially here in Germany. And so it's hard to stand out and have people approaching you asking, oh, what bike is this? Because everybody owns this bike, but not the case with the Triumph Speedmaster. So this is it for this video. I leave you with some POV drives and sound clips that I made while driving here to this spot in the forest here in Germany. So I really hope you enjoyed this episode. Leave a like and subscribe if you want to see more about this bike. I have more videos planned. You can click on them right here. And then I see you guys in the next one.